Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know about some of the episodes we're working on so that you can submit your questions. So the first is all about convenience culture. We're talking about self-checkouts, delivery apps, music streaming that allows you to listen to literally any song at any time. News and media, what does the evolution and prioritization of convenience say about our society, and what does it cost us? Send us your questions. We're also doing an episode about the women's fitness industrial complex. So whether it's like the call to eat protein all the time, or I guess fiber all the time, or lifting heavy or doing Pilates, there are all these exercise trends targeted specifically towards women. What have you seen? What are you curious about? What do you like? What's weird? Take that in any direction. And then we're also working on a handful of episodes with different guests who talk about clothes and personal style. This is sort of pegged to back to school, which is always when I get a little excited about thinking about clothes. I don't know, I'm just like a 13-year-old girl at heart, but we'll be talking about thrifting, about plus size options or lack thereof, about defining one's personal style and if that's even a thing that matters, and about why some clothing items go viral. So keep an eye on clothes culture around you and let us know what sparks your interest. And of course, we always need fodder for the Ask Ann Anything. You can submit everything at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod. Okay, thanks. Enjoy today's show. This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
And I'm male gaze expert Adib Khorram.
I love that because it goes in two ways. Male gaze, male gaze.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we're going to start controversial. Who is the first heartthrob that you remember being aware of? I think this is different than your first heartthrob. The first person that you were aware of, that you understood as a heartthrob.
Ooh, boy, this is going to date me. I remember there was this show called Sequest DSV, and everyone
100%.
was talking about Jonathan Brandis, and then he went and did like a weird Chuck Norris karate movie, and then he died way too young. But like, the middle part, those, big expressive eyes, that's what I remember everyone in the 5th grade recess talking about.
So this gives us a chance to come up with our working definition of heartthrob, because one of our listeners, Heidi, asked, what's the difference between a heartthrob and a sex symbol? Or I also feel like crush or like teen idol is also an interesting variation of all of these, because to me, Jonathan Brandis is a teen idol.
Interesting. I would agree he is a teen idol. But when I was like a preteen, then he was also a heartthrob.
Totally.
I think relative age does play into it.
Yes.
And I think specifically when I think about the difference between a heartthrob and a sex symbol, I think heartthrob is an ephemeral status.
Yes.
And sex symbol is like a sort of permanent bestowal.
Yes.
Sean Connery was a sex symbol. Sean Connery still is a sex symbol posthumously, but he was only a heartthrob for a portion of his life, but he was a sex symbol past when he stopped being a heartthrob. To me, that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I also think that the age component is really interesting, because I think it works both in terms of a heartthrob can be, when you're a certain age, it needs to be someone who's older than you. And also when you're a certain age, it needs to be someone who's younger than you. So its positionality is figured into this. And we got a lot of listener questions about where did the heartthrobs go? And I'm like, they didn't go anywhere. You're just 44. But my earliest heartthrob, I think, would be, and this is kind of towing the line of sex symbol, that I was aware of was Patrick Swayze. And part of it was that I was not allowed to watch Dirty Dancing. So he was just imbued with this mystery of everyone says this person is the hottest. And that made him seem like someone who I should think is hot, even if I didn't, he's not my flavor.
I think that's absolutely accurate. I think sort of the cultural milieu affects who is heartthrobs, and there is pressure to see the same people as heartthrobs.
Yes.
I think in some ways it feels like one of the last pieces of monoculture out there is like who we all have decided is a heartthrob. That and the pit. That's it for monoculture. Everything else is completely fragmented, but everyone loves heartthrobs and the pit.
Yes. We could just do this whole episode, you and I talking about who we think is hot.
We could, and perhaps I would argue even should. What else? What else do the people want?
But we also have to go deeper because this is culture study. So we talk a lot about female beauty standards, and I actually think we've been talking a lot more about the punishing, exacting form of male beauty standards. But what do you think our current designation is for a heartthrob?
Ooh. I think current designation for a heartthrob is a conventionally attractive man.
Yes.
I think they have to be an actor. I feel like I never hear it, even the most beautiful of musicians or athletes described as heartthrobs. I think they have to be an actor.
Yes. That's a good point.
And I think they are someone that is conventionally attractive and with enough mystique that they are almost, I hope I'm using this word right, a shibboleth for the audiences to put their own desires onto. And so they have to have an aura of availability, even though we all know that they are in fact not available to us.
2 points here. I think that the point about musicians is so strong because I think that a musician is only ever who they appear to be. Like their image is themselves. There isn't like disappearing into a role and then there's like some true self that we're allowed to imagine, like who they are in real life. So like Harry Styles to me is a quintessential teen idol because Harry Styles is always Harry Styles. Like there isn't any...
Even when he acts, he's still just Harry Styles in a costume.
Yeah, well, and also acts.
I know, right? He stood where they told him to stand and said the words that were written down for him in a script. Totally.
And then a star, though, can like have that mystique that I think is central to the heartthrob. And like even that Melody was joking about how she wrote heartthrob in the preparation for this episode way too many times and like started thinking about it as a medical condition. Like if we're thinking like the actual word heartthrob, it's like you can't control the thing that your body does when you see this person.
Yeah, like a physical response.
But it's not sexual, right? It's not necessarily, right? It's more emotional. It's a more like connection that has less to do with straight sexual desire. And I don't mean that straight heterosexual. I mean pure desire and more to do with like an emotional desire.
I think so. And I think it taps into, this is going to sound weird, a desire a lot of us have to know the trappings of fame.
Yes.
To be seen and beloved by the masses.
So I recently read Emma Straub's book, American Fantasy, which is about going on a New Kids on the Block cruise. Have you read it?
I have it on my cart back there, which is overflowing with books that I will definitely get around to reading someday.
It is such a romp. But one of the things I really liked about it is that it channels that desire to like actually, that like you had when you were a kid where you're like, if Joey McIntyre would just talk to me, like if we could just spend like, you know, a couple hours together, like we would see like the true connection that we had and like be friends and maybe, you know, future lovers, like whatever. But it's more about that like desire to see the emotional connection play out and less about like, I want to hump his brains out or something like that.
Yeah. I think like heartthrobs can't exist without parasocial relationships.
Yes.
If it's possible to know them, then they stop being a heartthrob.
Yeah. Yes. What about, I think this is really interesting now, especially like with more and more stars being very openly out. Do you think that they have to be open to both the male and the female gaze, like a subject to both the male and female gaze?
I actually think it helps them if they manage to live in both gazes.
Yes.
I think Jonathan Bailey is got to be people's sexiest man alive. Mm-hmm. Was one of the first people to like make waves with their slutty little glasses, and like he is an out gay man, and people of all genders love him.
Yes.
And I think the stars of Heated Rivalry have managed to move in such a way that they have welcomed in fans and admirers and heartthrobbies, heartthrobbers,
Yes.
however we
Yes.
would say that. Like they have welcomed that in by playing with gender expectations.
I think that George Clooney is in this category, even though he also, I think, at various points has been a sex symbol. But he has also like very explicitly been like, I don't care if people desire me in that way. Like, whatever. Like, what does it change my life if people want to imagine me in that way? We have a question that's going to set us up to another important wrinkle in this story. This comes from Kate.
Is heartthrob a gendered term? Even though I myself am queer, the term heartthrob makes me think of men. Are there heartthrobs who are women or femmes?
Great question.
I agree, and I hate gender essentialism, which is why I'm worried that my answer, I think, is yes. I have only ever heard heartthrob applied to a man. I am also extremely homosexual, and when I think of the most like beautiful women in the world, I still don't think like they're a heartthrob. I think, that would be my exception. Or please step on me, Kate Blanchett, in your full Galadriel costume. Like that's what I think, but I don't think heartthrob.
Yeah, well, and something like Tilda Swinton, like women who are playing with androgyny. I think that they're sex symbols, not heartthrobs, because like there is a charisma to their gender play, but it's a hard charisma, right? It's like
agreed. And I also think when we think of how women are expected to operate through their celebrity, I think there is an expectation of sweetness. Like you're supposed to be America's sweetheart, not a heartthrob if you're more femme-aligned.
Yes.
I feel like male heartthrobs are allowed to sort of play with their sexuality, but if a beautiful woman starts to do that, she's immediately slut-shamed.
The Culture Study podcast is sponsored by Blue Land. Okay, so I live on an island, which means that there's a lot of beach all around me. And it also means that I get to see the various crap that washes up in the tides. Makes me think a lot about waste and all of the waste that I'm putting into the world. I think a lot of us think about this all the time. And obviously this is a systemic issue, but at the same time, there are little things that each of us can do to create less waste in our lives. And one of the primary sources of waste in my life is buying multiple packages in plastic of cleaning objects, whether it's the little wipes that like are filled with cleaning stuff, or like bottles of cleaning spray or toilet bowl cleaner, laundry detergent, all of it. It comes in plastic. And yes, I can recycle it, but in a lot of places, plastic recycling isn't guaranteed. The major switch that I have made is to Blue Land products. You get one long-lasting, very sturdy, washable, excellent bottle, container, whatever it is. And then as you run out of the item, you get more in the mail that you just like put the little tab into your spray bottle and get more glass cleaner, or you put it into your soap dispenser and wow, there's more soap and it smells great. And it's just in the form of these little tabs. Lately, I've been using the whitening powder for my laundry, like keeps your whites bright. And instead of having like the big tub of the powder that I have to replace every 6 months, I just get these little tablets and they come in a paper bag, and I'm putting less plastic into the world. Blue Land makes dish, laundry, and other household cleaning products. Seriously, there's so much. If you go onto the website, you're going to be amazed. And they're all designed to reduce single-use plastic. Blue Land is also a certified B Corp, and it's Leaping Bunny cruelty-free certified. Their formulas are EPA Safer Choice certified, and many products have also earned Cradle to Cradle's Gold Material Health Certificate. So make the switch today. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/culture. That's blueland.com/culture. Today's episode is sponsored by Lola Blankets. Melody, it's too hot for your Lola blanket right now, isn't it?
That doesn't matter.
It's not too hot for my Lola blanket here because we get down to like the 50s at night. And so my favorite thing in the world is starting the night with my Lola blanket just on like my feet, just like a little bit of weight on my feet. And then as the night gets cooler, I just like, in my sleep kind of pull it up and then wake up in the morning feeling like just so comfortable, so cozy. It's really my favorite thing.
I'm still getting undermined on the couch, even though it's technically too hot in my house, but it's just the softness that I really want.
know.
And so sometimes I'll even just drape it over like a single leg.
Yes.
Or I'll sit on top of it. Polly needs it for her nesting materials.
Absolutely.
So we can't put it away.
You've given the Lola blanket to many people at this point. Like 3,
Yes.
4?
3.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
People say that it is the perfect gift. And do people like not shut up about it once you give it to them?
Yes.
Lola is the world's #1 blanket, crafted with ultra soft luxury faux fur and a signature 4-way stretch that people instantly obsess over the second they touch it. It's machine washable. I just washed mine last week. I have to wash it a fair amount because, like you, my dogs are addicted to it. And here's the thing, as long as you follow the instructions, it stays soft. It's double hemmed, built to last for years. Mine's in the exact same shape that it was when I got it more than a year ago, and stays flawless. No shedding, no pilling, no delicate care worries. For a limited time, our listeners can get 40% off select Lola Blanket products with code CULTURE at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code CULTURE. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know that we sent you. Wrap yourself in luxury with Lola Blankets. Next question comes from Jenna, and it's going to allow me to like get wonky classic Hollywood. I'm very excited. It's about the evolution of the heartthrob.
How do you think the idea of a quote-unquote heartthrob has evolved from the late 90s and early 2000s? Shout out to my formative crush, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and that era of younger, more boyish, less fully formed celebrity crushes, to today's version, like Pedro Pascal, who feels more mature, self-aware, and aligned with things like authenticity, emotional intelligence, and even feminist values. Is this shift a kind of generational reaction against the heartthrobs we grew up with, or just a reflection of how millennials themselves have aged and what we now find attractive? And more broadly, do younger generations even use the term heartthrob, or is this a millennial-driven lens that says more about us than about the celebrities themselves?
What's your first reaction here?
My first reaction is everything always says more about ourselves than it does about the world around us.
Yes.
So I agree. I think maybe heartthrob as a specific coined word sees a lot more use in millennials, but I think what it represents happens in every generation, and maybe it has a different word.
No, for sure. I think that it is like, there's actually, Melody pointed me to this BBC article about heartthrobs through the ages, and I was ready to be like very dismissive and cranky about it. Like someone just like putting together like, oh, this was a big star in the 1930s. But it actually is very accurate. We will link to it in the show notes. And
was it like Clark Gable when he took off his shirt and didn't have a tank top on underneath, and then undershirts?
It happened one night. Yes,
plummeted in the United States.
Yes, apocryphal information, but also like very important to me.
Listen,
it points to
use our film history somewhere.
The 1920s is this really interesting contrast between Douglas Fairbanks, who was like the swashbuckler, like I'm a horseman, blah, 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 and Rudolph Valentino, which is always like, I think about Rudolph Valentino way more than I ever thought that I would think about a star from the 1920s as how Hollywood and how like desire had to negotiate, like female desire had to negotiate, like what do we do with this star who's coded as other in some way because he was an immigrant and was like, Italians weren't assimilated into whiteness as thoroughly as they are now. So he was feminized in all of these ways, and he's trying to prove like, I am a virile guy, but then also if you become the subject of so many women's attraction and like men don't like your movies, then like that feminizes you even more. And I think we actually see this a lot with contemporary stars who are like, do I become like a guy star or do I become a heartthrob? And they have to negotiate that space, both like with their publicist, with their image, with the studio, whatever it is. But Clark Gable in the 1930s, I don't really agree with like the crooner of the 1940s, but that's their assertion is it's like Sinatra, Bing Crosby, that sort of thing.
Interesting.
I think it was much more like, actually, when he's more of a sex symbol is Humphrey Bogart in the 1940s, but like the noir,
I would agree,
compromised hero. 1950s is Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean, Marlon Brando.
Oh my gosh, Marlon Brando was a heartthrob.
Unspeakably beautiful and hot. I think
Right,
he's a sex
and also like, complicated, but I think has shown to be on the right side of most things historically.
Yeah, like not necessarily
out-
a great guy in his personal life, but
Right.
also his politics were pretty, like, his larger politics were good.
Yeah.
1960s, hold on. Yeah, 1950s, The Rebel, and then it just like skips over the 1960s and goes
That's
to the
because they're like-
1970s.
Well, they're like, we can't talk about the Beatles. We'll get sued.
Well, and also that, but I think the Beatles, this is your point that...
I don't think they can be heartthrobs, but they took up so much culture. I don't know if there was room for heartthrobs in the 60s.
Teen Idols, yeah. 1970s, Burt Reynolds. Again, I think more of a sex symbol, I would argue. Robert Redford, that works for me. How do you have this list without Paul Newman on it?
Especially if Robert Redford is on it. Like, you can't have Redford without Newman.
1980s, The Yuppie. So this is like Richard Gere, Don Johnson. I bet you could add like...
That's when I would have put Patrick Swayze.
Same.
What year did Ghost come out? Was that late 80s or early 90s? Maybe
right
my
around
decades
there.
are wrong. Okay.
But also bordering on sex symbol. 1990s, this is getting into this territory, like specifically addressed by the question, sensitive pretty boy. So Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously, like the pinnacle of heartthrob, to my mind, of the 90s.
Yeah.
We had lesser Leos, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas is like a C-level Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right, and he also, like, Leo matured.
Yes.
And Jonathan Taylor Thomas, I feel like, never left Home Improvement. Like,
no.
That's always...
He made
who
a
he is in our
cameo
mind.
appearance on Veronica Mars, I believe.
Scandalous. Okay.
Yeah. It's like so clearly hailing to like the millennial mind. But I think Leo has never left residency in heartthrob category. And not getting married certainly like lends itself to that. He just keeps,
And now, granted, continually like dating 18-year-olds is a little weird.
Yes. 2000s, I wonder who we'd put here. I think that's an age when, again, like teen idols in the form of like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys kind of eclipsed the heartthrob. And then
I think there were some things, please forgive me for even mentioning this, but I feel like everyone that I knew was really into Christian Bale right around when he took his shirt off in the Batman movies. Yes. Really into Johnny Depp when he was in Pirates of the Caribbean, and everyone's like, he's weird and dirty, and for some reason he makes my heart flutter.
Oh, that's so like I remember
weird.
that moment so vividly. I felt that. Ugh.
Yep. And I also think I feel like a lot of people loved Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man at like the very first Iron Man movie, which came out in 2008.
Yeah.
I would say that he managed to catch a bit of heartthrob status there.
And I think heartthrobs can also have, we were talking about how they're nice. They can also have like redemption stories,
And
right? So like
everyone was rooting for his redemption story.
Yes. I even think like John Travolta had a little bit of heartthrob status in the 90s because he was he had been a heartthrob, and then it's like, look, he's a heartthrob again because he's had this comeback with Pulp Fiction. And, has Tom Cruise ever been a heartthrob?
I actually think Tom Cruise is not a heartthrob, but he is one of the last stars.
Yes, 100%. But not maybe early Tom Cruise, actually, like Risky Business Tom Cruise.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And then is Denzel a heartthrob?
Oh, if you have ever seen Mississippi Masala, then you know it's 100% yes.
That heartthrob, and then he becomes, I think, a sex symbol. He like moves through the charts. And then 2010s, this is, I think, spot on. We move to the internet's boyfriend. And the internet's boyfriend can shift. It shifts very quickly. And this is what you were saying about like a heartthrob is ephemeral. So
I feel like the 2010s also gave us the era of the Chris's.
Yes.
And like the great Chris wars of the 2010s.
And none of them really actually were that good of heartthrobs, which is why like they've moved on to very different things now. But Timothée Chalamet takes up this mantle. Pedro Pascal, as the question asker mentioned, I think is like, but part of what I see in this question is also like our millennials have just gotten older. And so the tastes have become more refined.
I agree. I also don't think I hear people widely calling Pedro Pascal a heartthrob. I do think millennials call him a heartthrob.
Yeah.
But I think younger people, I don't hear call him a heartthrob. I hear them calling him daddy. Like, I think different people are wanting different things out of him.
100%.
Also, I adore him and everything he does. Like, I think he's great. We're lucky to live in Pedro Pascal's earth.
He came to visit BuzzFeed when he was first emerging into like more global stardom. This was when he, like the season that he appeared on Game of Thrones. And we used to have stars like come visit the office to do kind of a part of their like junket rounds.
Right. And then they could answer questions while they're holding puppies.
Yeah. Or they could
those
like,
days.
there would just be a call. Like if you want to get a picture with Pedro Pascal, just come to the red wall. So there's a picture of me from 2014 with like newly celebritized Pedro Pascal. I will post that in. That'll be.
That has to be in the show notes, please.
Yes, 100%. I look very surprised. I'm like, here's this person that I really like on Game of Thrones, and like could not have predicted that trajectory for him. But I do think like that designation, the internet's boyfriend, is really interesting because boyfriend, there's like a niceness to it.
There's a niceness, but also, again, that availability.
Yes.
Because they're not the internet's husband. And they're not someone else's husband either.
Right. And you can break up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And internet, to me, signals, like you said, that parasocial component.
Absolutely.
Like imagining yourself in this position. Okay, next question. We get to talk about heated rivalry. This is from Kelly.
What do you think the heated rivalry stars and their characters' heartthrob status tells us about the kind of men that women desire versus the kind of men that cishet men think that women desire?
Interesting question, right? Like who gets cast in a movie as like the object of desire versus who and what type of character? Because this is what that's who people love. It's the characters, not as much like the actual actors here, right?
Yeah. I think, well, it's interesting because physically they are like very similar to what men think they need to look like. Like they are shredded and muscular. Yeah. And yet they also like have glowing skin. Like are clearly taking care of themselves. And in the show, they both present, their characters act extremely hypermasculine. And I do have lots of opinions on that. But then at like the actors who play them are clearly young and media savvy, know who their audience is, and I think have enough self-possession to never take themselves very seriously. Mm-hmm. And I think a sense of humor,
playfulness,
goes a long way in being and maintaining heartthrob status. Yes, because if you buy into your own hype, you stop being lovable.
A heartthrob teases, like flirts. They know how to play back, and like sometimes I think to myself like they know what they're doing, that sort of thing, and like it can be overdone. I think when the moves are too obvious, it's kind of like when someone's flirting with you too obviously, or like where like they have no game, it doesn't quite work. But I think with the heated rivalry stars, it really works. One thing about the narrative, and I think you were kind of gesturing to this, their narrative of heated rivalry, because they are trying to pass as straight for like half of the show.
I mean, the entirety of the show, they're passing for straight, except behind closed doors.
Except for the parts when they're having sex with one another.
I think even when they're having sex for one another, they, there's a portion of that where they're still performing straightness.
Oh, tell me more. What do you think?
I think their initial encounters come across as not only very aggressive, but also very heteronormatively coded, where one is, Ilya is always the aggressive dominant top, and Shane is always the quiet submissive bottom, which essentially just reproduces a sort of traditional male-female dynamic. And as their relationship evolves, we see more non-penetrative sex acts, and we also see more like tender simultaneous sex acts going between them, in which they're both actively giving and actively receiving pleasure at the same time, and easing off the sort of dominant and submissive roles. But I also think, hockey is one of the straightest sports out there. I mean, all sports are super straight, sadly.
Right.
Except for, I guess, ballroom dancing, maybe. Sorry, I do love ballroom dancing. I do think that's Baz Luhrmann's best movie. Is the ballroom dancing one?
Strictly Ballroom.
I know, right?
Yeah.
There are. God, it's such a good movie. There are queer people everywhere, but hockey in particular, I think, is a sport that really embraces whiteness and straightness, and a sort of violent masculinity. Even though they're not allowed to fight anymore, which used to be the only good part of watching a hockey game anyway, is the fights.
Do you think that there is like a conscious, almost like regulation of the sex scenes in order to invite more straight viewers into the show? This is kind of a digression, but I also think it's interesting.
Actually, I know they worked with an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah.
And I've read some of the interviews of that, like how they planned it. I actually think they went in trying to portray two people in love having a lot of sex and discovering that they were in love along the way. And the show Heated Rivalry seems to me that it was really made with like a particular vision behind the lens, and that being that like the team was making the show they wanted to make, and they were going to trust that people would like it. So I don't think they like specifically courted any specific audiences with the sex scenes. I think they tried to honestly portray the sex they were trying to portray.
Yeah.
And the role it had in that relationship.
Have you seen Off Campus?
I have not. Is that one on Amazon?
Yeah, and it's about...
I don't have a subscription to that. I'm technically... Well, I'm not boycotting them, but I also try not to give them money.
I understand.
But also, please continue. If Amazon is where you buy my books, please continue doing that. The check clears either way. But I love it when the money comes from them to me and not vice versa.
We recently recorded a bonus episode, me, Melody, and then our other friend Margaret, about this show, which is a hockey show, and it's ostensibly very straight, but our argument was actually that the show, and especially the way that both the male and female characters were presented, that it's actually for the bisexual gaze, which I think is like, I think
which
that's
makes sense.
part...
It does have Mateo from The Pit in it.
Yes, I do think that's part of contemporary heartthrobness, right? Is being available to the bisexual gaze, to all of the different gaze, Gaze, not just Gays, although that as well.
Yes. I would agree. I do think, again, it's that availability. You have to be available to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Is this just because I want to have a mention of Paul Mescal? Probably. But let's hear it. It's from Claire.
What happened to bad boys? I'm an older millennial, and in my youth, there were always a few bad boy heartthrobs who seemed a little dangerous. Now, heartthrobs seem to be good boys. Johnny Bailey, Paul Mescal, Connor Storrie, Hudson Williams, Glenn Powell, Paul Rudd, Pedro Pascal, all good guys. I'm here for it, but I'm wondering why.
Okay, can we think of a bad boy?
I was going to say I have a theory of why we don't like bad boys anymore.
Okay, but can you think of anyone?
Yeah, but he keeps, like, all his movies keep bombing and no one likes him.
Who is it?
Jared Leto.
Oh, well, he's not anymore.
I don't know. I just know he's apparently cursed now.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, my heartthrob is Jordan Catalano, not Jared Leto. Does that make sense?
Same. He was never mine. But I was like, but specifically when we think of bad boys, I think the Me Too movement made us reevaluate what a bad boy is.
Yeah.
And that maybe it's not simply a presentation, but in fact, maybe their behaviors are harming people. I also think we don't want bad boys anymore because globally, geopolitically, bad people are running things. And so we want to reach for goodness and softness and tenderness and empathy where we can find it. Whereas, I'm not saying the 90s were great for anyone, but for many of us, they were slightly less like existentially dreadful. And therefore, bad boys were not as like threatening to our lives.
Yeah, and I think bad boys were a way to highlight like some form of transgressiveness when something like, I don't know, like any sort of like sexual transgressiveness or like when it comes to sexuality, gender performance, all those things were somewhat out of bounds. Like if you think about the way that bad boys are often portrayed, like they wear tighter pants almost always. There's a way that you could
They have
read
tattoos.
bad boys. Yeah.
But now you can have a tattoo and work just about any job. Like, it doesn't matter. Like it's no longer a matter of no one will hire you if you have a tattoo.
Yes. And I think there was also a component of like working class masculinity and the fetishization of that in the 1980s and 90s that now is less vivid and is not necessarily aligned with like bad boyness per se. But yeah, I think this is an interesting question. I was like thinking too about how many narratives of the 80s and 90s really offer us two different visions, like two different dudes. And one would be like they both would be hot in different ways. And the protagonist would have to choose between them. And I don't think we get as much of that anymore.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's funny you bring up the 80s because I think of like so many of the movies from the 80s that gave us heartthrobs.
Yes.
Like Dirty Dancing or Footloose are about like people who essentially like tried to break the characters free of some sort of repression.
Yes.
And I do think as a society we're less repressed right now than we were in the 80s.
Even as
Reagan's
there
gone,
are
thank goodness.
sources that are trying to repress us, I do think we're less repressed. But like James Spader to me, not a heartthrob, he's a sex symbol.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Is what's his name? Melody from Wuthering Heights.
Jacob Elordi.
Kate Bush? Oh, sorry.
Is Jacob Elordi a bad boy?
I think he plays one, but in like his public persona is not. Like he plays himself very nice and very Australian, and everyone thinks that everyone from Australia is a lad.
I buy it. Okay, this is good.
Also, he's tall, and that's like a whole separate category.
Say more.
For instance, Adam Driver, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that he's a heartthrob, but there's an entire subgroup of people that are like, he is over 6'5", and that is all I need to know about him. And I think Jacob Elordi is also in that category.
You know, I do think that like, yeah, heartthrobs can't be super tall. I think like a short king is great heartthrob material.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think there is a limit to it.
Yeah, there is a limit, but like they have to like sometimes when you have something that is somehow seen as less societally desirable, then you have to like be nicer. It forces you to be like a better dude.
Interesting. Fascinating. I think or you have to be funny. Here's a question for you, Jack Black, heartthrob or not?
Oh, I actually think yes.
Okay. I think he's definitely a sex symbol. I don't know if I would. I think he's a heartthrob, but I also don't know if anyone else. That's why I asked it. I don't know.
We'll have to. This was a great one for people to weigh in the comments.
Yeah, is Jack Black a heartthrob, a sex symbol, both or neither?
Yes. Okay. All of
sense
this
of humor is great.
Sense of humor, and like for me, I've heard him in lots of interviews where he basically acts like his character from The Holiday.
Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, everyone's favorite Jack Black movie also.
And I'm like, what a guy, right? You're like, Jude Law, so handsome. Don't need it. I'd go with Jack Black.
Same.
Yeah. Okay, next question. This has all been leading up to this. This is from Connor.
Maybe it says something about the side of the internet I'm on, but I've noticed something that many male heartthrobs, whether from the golden age of Hollywood or current day, have in common is speculation surrounding their sexualities. I grew up hearing about James Dean's potential bisexuality, the queer subtext in movies like Top Gun, and today I regularly see people looking for clues about the potential queerness of their favorite K-pop star or the new breakout heated rivalry stars, Connor Storrie and Hudson Williams. Why is this? Does a heartthrob's potential queerness make them seem more accessible to us? Does it imply a rejection of the patriarchy or other power dynamics that inherently come with celebrity that's attractive to us? And does our view of these heartthrobs change if they actually come out?
I have a theory here.
Okay, I want to hear yours first, though.
Okay. My theory is that we are not trained to know what to do with any sort of gender play or any sort of like soft masculinity. And so the automatic reaction is like, are they gay? And sometimes yes, and sometimes no. But I think that is like the first kind of like, how do we figure out who this person really, like what's going on with this person? Why do I like them if they don't completely match with societal standards? And the most obvious line of questioning is like, are they gay? That's part of my theory. What is yours?
I agree. And I think that lets us vicariously break beyond the gender binary that many of us are kind of enforced in. I also think one reason that heartthrobs are heartthrobs is their presentation of non-threatening masculinity.
Yeah. Yep. Boyfriend, not husband.
Yep. But heartthrobs are almost always people that project an aura of safety, that they are not going to like physically or emotionally harm the people in their lives. That's how they project. And I think that's why we feel so terribly betrayed if some of them do eventually get exposed as being horrible people. Like why that betrayal cuts so deeply. But I do think part of their mystique is that they're like, oh, he seems like he smells nice and would hold the door for me and also never gaslight me.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for, cisgender men, presenting any sort of non-threatening masculinity is also conflated with queerness. I mean, Mr. Rogers was married and like a pastor, but everyone was like, well, he's soft-spoken and nice to children. He must be gay somehow. And like maybe he was some flavor of queer.
Yeah.
I mean, a man that pulls off a cardigan that well, to me, has to like at least be a little bit bisexual. But regardless, like, who he says he is who he is.
Yeah.
And he's not with us anymore. But, how he presented himself was how he presented himself. And like, I feel like weird about adjudicating his like inner life for him.
Yeah. Right.
But but like he was not threatening, and therefore that he must be queer because threat is so intertwined with ideas of like traditional masculinity.
There's two things I want to pick up on here. One, to be a total star theory nerd, is that I think a heartthrob's image must be what's called polysemic, which just means it has many semiology, many meanings, right? You can read it in many ways. So at least open to that, because that means that this person then becomes available for the desires of many different people. Like they can map them, whether they're queer, straight desires, or just like you want them to be a specific type of boyfriend that you need. Like that's what they can be. The other is that, like we were talking about before, about how it's hard for a musician to become a heartthrob because there's no true self behind the celebrity that we're trying to discover. Like part of our fascination with movie stars in particular is always trying to figure out like the authentic self, right? Like the layers. Okay, if we peel away all of these layers, we can somehow know who the real person is. And oftentimes scandal occurs, like the biggest scandals occur when something is revealed that challenges what we believed that most authentic self to be. So, like, I think about Kevin Spacey when people are like, well, he's gay, which was not a surprise. Like, that was something that was rumored about him for a long time. But like, oh, he's a horrible, abusive asshole, right? Like, again, not the massive scandal that it would have been if it was, say, Tom Hanks, right? Because like the characters that Kevin Spacey had played, the like various appearances that he had made to the press, he had never tried to like become a heartthrob. There was never this understanding that like he was a nice guy. Whereas a heartthrob, there is this implicit understanding and also a potential for scandal if it's revealed that they're actually not that way.
Thinking of Kevin Spacey also makes me think of Brendan Fraser.
Oh.
Who I think was a heartthrob and went away for a while and actually has like found a second heartthrobness.
This is my point about comebacks, right? There's a softness, there's a vulnerability when someone has been excised from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you think that someone, I think like
chances.
Heath Ledger is kind of cemented in heartthrob space?
Yeah, because he'll never get any older.
Right.
He will always be a heartthrob.
James Dean, same thing. Fascinating. The Culture Study Podcast is sponsored by Jones Road Beauty. Melody, I look just a little bit sun-kissed right now, don't I?
You do. I was going to comment on that, actually.
Guess what I'm wearing? I'm wearing my Jones Road Miracle Balm. I love it.
It looks lovely.
I've had mine forever. It's so good. It doesn't get cakey. I wear it every day. Like, it's part of my routine. It's so fast and easy. It comes in this thing. It's about the size of a compact, and you just use your fingers, you put them in there and just kind of swirl them around just a little bit, and then you can put it on your cheeks. It's exactly what I want for my no effort but a tiny bit of effort face routine.
I just discovered a new use case last weekend.
Ooh.
I had been at the pool all day, as I do on the weekends, and got home, took a shower, and then was going to hang out with friends. And I was like, I just got out of the shower after being caked in sunscreen all day. I do not feel like putting anything else on my face, but I also don't want to look like I just got out of the shower. So I used a little bit of Miracle Balm on my cheeks and a little bit of mascara, and I just had that fresh, dewy, sun-kissed glow. And I didn't feel like I needed to wash my face again.
Jones Road also has a new foundation stick, which for days when you want a little bit more than the I just got out of the shower and I don't want anything else. You just want a little bit more smooth coverage. It's fantastic. Jones Road Beauty is modern day makeup that's clean, strategic, and multifunctional for effortless routines. And for a limited time, our listeners are getting a free full-size mascara on their first purchase when they use code CULTURE at checkout. Just head to jonesroadbeauty.com and use code CULTURE at checkout. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that our show sent you. Today's episode is sponsored by Ollie. 89% of dog parents consider their dog their best friend in the entire world. And then 31%, according to this survey data, would even let their pups eat off their own fork.
I think that number is low. I think people are self-conscious about admitting the gross stuff they let their dogs do.
100%. At least I talk about letting my dog sleep in my bed all the time. And I'm like, and then I have to wash my bed.
Yep.
But I do think a lot of people let their dogs lick their faces, eat things off the floor, and then they don't wash them. That's me all the time. Why do I need a Swiffer when I can just have a dog? If anyone gets the level of obsession and love and care that encourages you to let your dog share the food off your fork, it's Ollie. They deliver fresh, human-grade food in 5 flavors so that your dogs can live their best lives. You could say that Ollie feeds the obsession. Ollie's fresh recipes are developed by real chefs with gut-friendly ingredients that support better digestion, energy, skin health, and better poops. With flavors like fresh beef with sweet potatoes or fresh turkey with blueberries. My dogs love the fresh turkey with blueberries.
Same.
And from the moment you start your subscription, everything is tailored to your pup. The meals are perfectly proportioned, and you get this very useful pup tainer and a scoop so you don't have to deal with gross tin cans in your refrigerator. Ollie also offers health tracking in their app so you can keep up with your pup's health and see the difference the food is making in their lives. So get ready for both you and your pup to be obsessed. Head to ollie.com/culture, tell them all about your dog, and use code CULTURE to get 70% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, it's risk-free with their obsession guarantee. That's OLLIE.com/culture and enter code CULTURE to get 70% off your first box. Ollie, feed the obsession. Okay, next question comes from Nia and gives us a chance to talk about age.
Heartthrobs are almost always the same age, 21-ish to 32-ish when they emerge, but we as consumers keep getting older. Does that impact who we consider a heartthrob? I.e., Robert Irwin is only 22 and therefore a baby, versus Jacob Elordi is 28 and can be hot. And how have Hudson and Connor managed to avoid that problem despite being pretty young?
We have to also add that Pedro Pascal, who we talked about a little bit, is 51, hot. And also we were just saying that Brendan Fraser has re-entered into heartthrob status. So you can re-enter into this point, or John Travolta in the 90s. Where do you go here?
I think it really is relative ages. And they're not going to be heartthrobs to everyone. Someone could be a child to me as a 42-year-old man. And a heartthrob to someone who's 10 years or 20 years younger than me.
Yeah.
for me, Robert Irwin, not a heartthrob. Talented dancer, clearly goes to the gym. Good for him. Not a heartthrob. Jacob Elordi, also too tall. Not a heartthrob. But Pedro Pascal, I'm like, yeah. Like, I bet he smells nice.
There's an interesting thing that happens for me where if the character that they play brings me back to a like 20-something version of myself, then it like smooths that otherwise ick, right? So this is why Paul Mescal just absolutely fucking does it for me, is because...
Oh, and those little shorts he wears sometimes.
I would just see how many episodes of this podcast where I could talk about his meaty clackers. Right. But the way that I was introduced to him in the primary text of his stardom for me is Normal People, which is like a heartthrob text, and brings me back to the feelings of late teendom and early 20s. So my connection to him, and he has done nothing to disabuse that in his public persona. So that is how I relate to him. Whereas Jacob Elordi, I'm like, I don't know. He's just like dating Kylie Jenner. That isn't heartthrobby to me.
I actually think it's interesting you mention the text, because I do think what texts actors pick can help guide them along the path to heartthrob, because then we make those associations. I think maybe one reason you and I have no feelings at all about Jacob Elordi is probably because neither of us saw The Kissing Booth, which was a formative romantic text for many people that were like teenagers during the pandemic when those movies came out on Netflix.
You're right.
Like, we never saw him as a like romantic lead.
Yes.
We know him as like, apparently he was an asshole in Euphoria, or now he's dating the person that you just named that I've already forgotten because I don't watch that
Kendall
show.
Jenner.
But
also...
Is she the one that thought Pepsi could dismantle systemic racism, or was that her sister? Okay.
It's true. And I said Kylie earlier, but it's Kendall. Kylie is dating Timothée Chalamet, who has also, I would argue, lost his heartthrob status.
Right? Because a lot of people know him from like the Ping Pong movie or from Dune.
Yeah.
Unless they saw whatever one it was that he was.
Well, I think he gained it.
It
really, like, this is pretty interesting. He gained it in Call Me By Your Name and then Little Women, like that 1-2 punch. And then a little bit in Lady Bird. Like, even though he's kind of a butt in that movie, like, he's still like a little heartthrobby. And then the swagger. I don't know if heartthrobs can have that much swagger. Like, the way that he has approached.
Like, opera's trash. Like,
not a heartthrobby thing to say.
No, and to bring it around, I think, to like Hudson Williams and Connor Storrie, like, I think, again, they're in a text that allows them to be romantic.
Yes.
Not only romantic, but also horny for each other.
Yes.
In a way that we also, for a long time, haven't gotten to see male leads be, like, horny.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, there was an article that came out called Everyone is Beautiful and No One is Horny.
100%. Yes.
And like, this show is horny. Heated Rivalry is horny. And I think they're aware of that. You know, people always say sex sells, and it does. But also, sex is an activity that many humans participate in. And acknowledging that, I think, is sort of a unifying part of their appeal. That, like, yes, we play two guys who fuck. And I think that makes them really appealing. Well, and that they're not ashamed of it.
This goes back to an old theory of mine that I wrote about a couple years ago, like dividing male protagonists, male stars, into ones who like women and ones who don't. And I think a heartthrob likes women. So, like, to me, this was during the height of like Glenn Powell insurgency. And I was like, Glenn Powell likes women. And you can see that in the way he looks at women on screen. And I don't just mean that, like, he likes them as in he wants to have sex with them. Like, he is not a misogynist.
Right. He sees the fullness of their humanity.
Yes. And we were talking about this with Off Campus as well. Like, you can see that the male protagonist in that show likes the woman that he is pursuing. And that shouldn't be a novelty, but it is.
I have, as I said, I have not watched that show, but I have friends that are watching it, and I have, like, romance author colleagues who are watching it, and they have been really interested in, like, dissecting the changes made between the books and the TV show, which it's, from what I can tell, the TV show makes the men much more respectful of their love interests than they are.
And part of that, I think, is a change from when the first book was released in 2015 to 2026.
That'll do it. Yep.
Right? Like, I think that part of that, and part of this too, as Melody very astutely pointed out in this bonus episode, is that like more media is understanding that like the romance gaze, and you know this better than anyone, like the romance gaze, if you can apply that to a narrative, like it turns someone into a heartthrob. It turns them into a guy that you actually want to be with, instead of just like this, you know, harkening back to an earlier point, the guy that like some male executive thinks that you should like.
I think the act of falling in love turns people beautiful. And so when we watch stories about people falling in love, we see them as beautiful.
Yeah.
And we get to share in that beauty.
Yeah. I would say the other thing that turns someone beautiful is also grief or loss, mourning. And so that for something like Leonardo DiCaprio, the two seminal texts to his 90s stardom are Romeo and Juliet, in which like so much crying, just beautiful crying. And then also Titanic, where he,
gets to die tragically, forever young and beautiful, while Celine Dion sings about it.
Exactly. The other thing that we should talk about in like so many of these questions is the fact that most of these celebrities, and this is a reflection of Hollywood in some ways, most of the celebrities mentioned in these questions are white or light-skinned. So where do you think race comes into play when we think about who gets to be a heartthrob? This
feels like a trap. I think if you ask me who a heartthrob is right now, I would say Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
I would say David Ajala. Like, I think there are, but I think as you and I are both not Black, we probably have a certain wariness of being perceived as fetishizing Black beauty and Black men, which is something that has historically been done. And so for me, I would rather err on the side of not fetishizing someone. But then that means that I don't talk about how many Black heartthrobs there are. We briefly mentioned Denzel Washington.
Yeah, well, this is a difficult question, right? Because like you said, like you don't want to venture into fetishizing territory. And I also think like there's like exoticism that happens here too. But there's also a long history of associating any sort of like male sexuality with like a very dangerous sexuality, right? A threat to white virtue, especially white female virtue. And I think that those traditions, as much as the Republican Party would like us to believe that racism no longer exists, like those traditions hold very strong. And the way that a Black star in particular has to frame their own position as a sex symbol, like all of this stuff, like it has to be very carefully done. And
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think Western beauty standards are insidious. And we, it's called unconscious bias for a reason. It's because we're not conscious of it.
Can I propose an untraditional heartthrob?
Yes.
Iced tea.
Oh, interesting.
Specifically in Law and Order SVU.
Oh, that's also how I mostly know him for, which I think is fascinating because he also did that "Fuck the Cops" song.
Right. Right.
I love Law and Order SVU, and I also am aware that it's propaganda, and so I have complicated feelings about it. I also think like everyone in that show is a heartthrob.
That's true. Well, and I think this is also participation in melodrama. Like that actually is one of the ways that you competency, melodrama, like those position you to be available to the heartthrob gaze, I think, in a way that like action movies, although action movies are oftentimes considered quote unquote male melodramas, like they don't necessarily do the same work.
I would agree. And I think, in things like Law and Order SVU or shows like The Pit, like everyone on The Pit is a heartthrob. Even when Dr. Robbie's being a complete asshole and I want to grab him by the beard and shake him, like I still love him. He still is a heartthrob. I think there's something about seeing people do a thing that we kind of widely perceive as a societal good that makes it very attractive. Well, I think maybe that's why SVU works, even as we know it's propaganda, because we like to envision that the Justice Department always moves swiftly and always is correct in who was responsible for crimes, and that the people who do the crimes face justice for them, which is so far removed from reality, but that's a whole other episode.
The pit is actually a really interesting point here, because I'm thinking about Noel Wiley in ER, where he was also a heartthrob, but the only male character on that show who was not a heartthrob was the black male doctor played by Eric LaSalle. And
But
some
he's
of
so
that
hot.
had to...
Sorry. I also never watched ER. I just saw the stills in People magazine.
But part of that had to do with the way that his character was framed in the show as incredibly arrogant. But then there were also a ton of stories about his behavior off camera, which was not hard. Like, he was kind of known, and I don't know whether this was the case or whether this was just part of like PR to make people dislike him, known as an asshole on set. But there was critique, I think, in the last 2 seasons about lack of Black representation in the show, in the pit, just generally. And I think we're teeing up for a season 3 where the character that I love, who is also on Shrinking, a black male
and
doctor.
Abbott Elementary.
Yes, in Abbott Elementary, we're teeing up. I think he's going to be one of our Dr. Heartthrobs in season 3.
I hope so. He's beautiful. He should be in everything.
Likable, too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love it. And his character in Shrinking, too, represents that sort of like soft masculinity of like, I was a vet, but I'm trying to be better. I'm a good like secondary father figure to this daughter. Like, everyone on that show is a heartthrob, too.
I mean, Harrison Ford, sex symbol.
Oh, the most heartthrobby performance, though, I think, is in this movie. It's the softest he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to talk about slutty little glasses last. This is a fun question about fashion to wrap this all up. Here's Casey.
Can you talk about the discourse around the slutty little glasses phenomenon? Full credit to Blakely Thornton here for coining the term that's completely captured the zeitgeist. I feel like most of the men I consider heartthrobs in 2026 are just extremely good at accessorizing in fashion, or at least they find great stylists and let them do their thing. The whole SLG trend seems to fall under that umbrella. It feels like a reaction against the early aughts demonization of the quote-unquote metrosexual, but maybe there's more to the idea that a modern heartthrob is allowed to be well-dressed or know how to work his angles. That a heartthrob no longer needs to code himself as a manly man who hates palazzo pants and would never carry a bag. There was that recent glossy spread of Pedro Pascal where he almost exclusively wore pants that Katharine Hepburn would have loved, and I just kept thinking, the heartthrobs of 20 years ago could never, would never. The mold of what's acceptable just feels so much bigger now, and there's a far wider range of taste in the heartthrob milieu. Please discuss.
Amazing question, Casey. Just like beautifully crafted. So highest compliments here.
It really is. To me, there is like the question of the slutty little glasses is different of a more like expansive sense of fashion. I think bravery is something that we appreciate in our heartthrobs.
Yep.
I also think, again, because heartthrobs tend to be a very like one specific body shape that clothes tend to fit well on. We love seeing like new fashion on them the same way that we love a runway model.
Yeah.
But with the slutty little glasses in particular, I think this is part of a long trend away from demonizing nerds. I still think most people, if as soon as you put glasses on them, you're just like, nerd alert. But it's no longer a bad thing. Now it's a good thing. I think sort of the rise of the nerd has made glasses more appealing. And I feel like there's been lots of media about how, you know, like the guy with the pocket protector and the glasses takes off his shirt, and it turns out he's in fact shredded and very good at sex. And I think that in particular is why they're slutty little glasses and not sexy little glasses.
The point, though, about like the playfulness and the bravery is also really interesting to me. Like, this is also like Pedro Pascal appearing in like shirts that are very explicitly pro-trans right, and talking about like that to me is in some ways like an act of bravery. It shouldn't be, but I think that's something that makes him also attractive and heartthrobby.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think like a manly man who hates a palazzo pant and would never carry a bag? I also just think like we've been talking about this more, that we do boomerang between like a more feminized ideal and a more masculinized. And I think right now we are definitely in this moment of more gender play. And are we going to go back? Like, is there going to be this like, now we just have dudes? Like, are we going to have a replay of like the three Chris's? What's going to happen? I hope not. That's uninteresting to me.
I think, unfortunately, yes. I think our sociologists and like pop culture people who study culture know that we always live on a 10, 20, and 30-year nostalgia cycle simultaneously. Even as, Pedro Pascal is wearing like a skirt. Tom Holland, who is like a former like West End dancer, also like does a photo shoot where he's like wearing a dirty tank top and like acting like a blacksmith.
Right.
So I think these are always existing simultaneously, and they speak to different needs in different people and different hopes and desires.
I think that is a fantastic place to end it. So before we end, I want to hear about your most recent books and what we have to look forward to.
Oh, goodness. My most recent books. Well, my most recent young adult novel came out back in March. It's called One Word, Six Letters. It's sort of inspired by the time that I was called a faggot during a school visit. And it asked questions about accountability and restorative justice and queerness and body dysmorphia in teen boys. And that makes it sound really heavy, but it's also, I think, very funny. And if you're from Kansas City, you'll definitely be like, oh, I know that place. And then my next adult romance novel comes out in September. It's called Isn't He Romantic? It's also set in Kansas City and is a fake dating story about a sort of high-strung event production professional who is the slut of his friend group named Arya, being dragged kicking and screaming into accidentally falling in love with a hot cellist who wears slutty little glasses named Ben.
All of the themes.
And they also drink lots of wine and bone a lot. It's great.
First of all, fake dating. Love fake dating. Known fake dating aficionado here. And we love non-coastal representation here on Culture Studies. So very excited for this. And where can people find you on the internet if they want to hear more from you?
I'm on adibkhorram.com. I'm on Blue Sky and Instagram at adibkhorram, ADIBKHORRAM. And I have a Patreon for my adult romances at Chateau Adib.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been everything that I could have imagined and more. So
I had so much fun. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Today, paid subscribers got a bonus conversation between Melody and me about buying ourselves little treats. You won't believe what they are. If you want to support the show and be sure you always get that bonus content, head to patreon.com/culturestudy. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive advice time segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. Also, be sure to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. We have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise, as I always do, that you don't want to miss any of them. So if you want to suggest a topic, ask a question about the culture that surrounds you, or submit a question for our subscriber-only advice time segment, go to our Google form at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod or check the show notes for a link. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod.